Hi everyone, welcome back to Pro-Life University. It's a brand new semester, brand new year. Welcome to 2020. This is Joe Kral, president of the Society of St. Sebastian. And I just want to welcome everybody back. I want to just simply say I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas season. I hope the Lord's blessings was upon each and every one of you. And I hope everyone's been having a happy new year up to this point as well. So again, welcome back. Now, one of the things I definitely want to just point out, and I think it's really important, and I pointed this out in my last video, we ended up on a high note. Interestingly enough, the Society of St. Sebastian did tweet this article out, but a pro-abortion advocate that studies abortion public policy even admitted that on the legislative front, pro-life forces were winning. That is an excellent way to end a year, isn't it? I really do think so. And I think we need to carry that momentum going into this new year. Let's have a banner new year. Let's pass as much pro-life legislation as we can. Let's help establish a culture of life further in each of our states and in our country as a whole. Now, today's topic, what we're going to talk about is legislation that focuses on the coercion of the woman. And so there's been various states out there, for example, that have been trying to pass legislation that mandates that a woman who's been coerced into having an abortion, well, that's a crime. You can't coerce a woman into having an abortion. And there have been a lot of efforts with respect to this. Well, and there's plenty of reason why. Certainly, recent studies have indicated that over 60% of women feel pressured into having an abortion. Now, let's take a step back here because I think some historical context is really needed to help further explain and help to kind of go deeper into this particular issue. This is not anything new when it comes to the subject of abortion. We have to recognize that there's a deep history of coercion when it comes to the culture of death. And we can really go back to ancient times, to ancient Roman times, ancient Greek times. So for example, we certainly know that the Greek philosophers actually wrote on the subject of abortion. Infanticide and abortion did happen in ancient times. Infanticide was widely practiced in the ancient Greek world, as it was in the ancient Roman world. In fact, I would certainly encourage you, if you want to go back and read a little bit about this history, there's one particular author I would certainly recommend, Dr. Rodney Stark. He teaches at Baylor University, I believe, and he's got a lot of books on early Christianity, and he certainly dives into this subject to some extent, and really in a unique, deep extent as well. So if you're definitely interested about learning more about this particular subject, go check him out. Again, his name is Rodney Stark, and I highly recommend him as a good source to learn about, not only about the rise of early Christianity, but also how early Christians confronted a culture that widely practiced infanticide and practiced abortion as well. But what we get from this history is that one of the things that we recognize is that men were pressuring women. Rodney Stark certainly brings up a great point, or I guess you could say a great example in one of his books where he talks about a Roman businessman, and this is a letter that an actual ancient Roman businessman wrote to his wife, asking about how the pregnancy was going and so forth. And he basically said, well, if it's a boy, that's wonderful. If the child is born and it's a girl, well, put it to the hill and leave it exposed. Exposure was one of the ancient practices in which Romans and Greeks used in order to practice infanticide. They would literally leave the child on the side of a hill, if you will, and let the elements or the wild animals basically kill the child. And it's obviously tragic, but it was something that was widely practiced, and certainly Christians taught against this practice. And we see many cases in which they actually took these children in and raised them as their own. But nonetheless, what we see here is a classic example of a man pressuring a woman. And it's just not in this letter. It was widely known throughout ancient history that men would pressure women into either practicing infanticide or practicing abortion as well. And so there is a kind of a tragic history when it comes to this sort of thing. So, in all honesty, we have to recognize abortion for what it is. We see what's happened in ancient times, and we can look at today as well. And we certainly see today that there are several cases, and notable cases even, in which men do not want to hold up to their responsibilities. They don't want to raise the child. They don't want to care for the child. They don't want to pay child support and so forth. So they try to pressure the woman into having an abortion. Right? So basically what happens is you get this idea that abortion doesn't benefit the woman for the most part. It benefits a man for selfish reasons. It's really a tool for a corrupt patriarchy, if you will, that tries to dominate the woman through pressure, intimidation, force, you name it, in order for the man not to uphold his responsibilities as a father. Now, here it is. There it is. And we got to understand that there are initiatives out there, and more states need to certainly engage in these types of initiatives to pass laws that prohibit the coercion of women when it comes to the subject of abortion. Now, what's the thought behind this? Why are pro-lifers trying to push such legislation? Is it going to reduce abortion and so forth? Well, certainly the thought is that if a woman is free from coercion, she is certainly less likely to pick abortion. We got to understand when a woman finds out that she's pregnant and then she's being pressured by a male to have an abortion, it's probably not because she wants the abortion. She's probably looking for every avenue, if you will, to try to not have an abortion. But she feels this pressure that, the boyfriend saying, well, I'm going to break up with you. I'm have nothing to do with this child and so forth. Or something along the lines of kind of emotional abuse, if you will. Well, if you don't have this abortion, you really don't love me and so forth. And so there's these pressures, if you will, that they're facing. And, obviously they're scared. They're not sure what's going on. They're confused. They then go to an industry, the abortion industry, which is in the business of selling abortion. They're not going to give her the truth. They're not going to tell her, what's available out there for her to utilize in order to have this child and so forth. That's why it's important to pass such legislation, especially in light of informed consent legislation. Now, one of the things, for example, that's also necessary is for states to pass proper informed consent legislation and information that includes information on, child support, that the man is legally responsible if she has this child, that he still has to pay child support and so forth. What public assistance may be available to her, and what other organizations may be out there that are willing to help out. We got to understand that, proper informed consent is letting her know that there are other options, life-affirming options, that are readily available for her so that she can choose life. Coupled with the fact that if there's anti-coercion legislation that becomes law out there, this provides an incentive, if you will, for her to choose life. Again, we got to understand when abortion is legalized, it literally opens up a veritable cornucopia of all sorts of evils that are out there. It opens it up for abuse, coercion, force, you name it. And so with this type of legislation, again, it's trying to limit some of those harms. And here in this particular case, it's limiting the harm of the coercive practices that typically go along with abortion. And so, again, by limiting this harm, we provide her the opportunity to choose life. And so in many respects, we see when we pass legislation along these lines, informed consent, all sorts of other pro-life bills out there, that the abortion rates decline. Why? Because women are given the knowledge that they actually need. They're told that, hey, yeah, well, guess what? He does have a legal responsibility to be a father, all right? And he has a legal responsibility to care for that child and to provide for that child. And yes, there are opportunities out there for you to receive care, whether that's from a private community, a private donation center, or even through public assistance. So it's important to get this information out there in addition to language that would prohibit the coercion of these women as well. Now, one of the things that we definitely need to take note of here, and we live in a culture, and I think we should take some pause here. I mean, many of us this past week have heard the case of Michelle Williams, who got up during the Golden Globes, during her acceptance speech, talked about, or at least she alluded to having an abortion. And we really got to wonder, was this a case of coercion that was going on? She certainly is in an industry where sexual exploitation and sexual assault seems to be a problem. It's certainly not out of the realm of possibilities that the same sort of industry that certainly hid sexual predators doesn't have a problem trying to coerce women, especially their actresses, into having an abortion when it doesn't fit their film schedules and so forth. And so, we really got to wonder what's going on out there. And I think legislation along these lines can help free women in many respects and let them know that there are opportunities out there that can help them and their child, that they're not alone, that people are willing to help, that even the community, the government is willing to help. So in many respects, this is one of the big reasons why I think we need to pass such legislation. And again, guys, it's important to understand the history of this thing. Abortion and coercion in many ways go hand in hand. It's just the typical thing of the culture of death, if you will. The culture of death is not interested in informing women with respect to giving them proper, true information. They mislead them, they tell them lies, they tell them half-truths. They'll do anything. And we got to remember, Planned Parenthood in many ways is that embodiment of the culture of death. They're not there to tell them the truth. They're not there to tell them about fetal development. They're not there to tell them about their alternatives. And they could care less if these women have been coerced by, boyfriend, a parent, a husband, or whomever, even a teacher or an employer. The simple fact is that the Planned Parenthood industry and the abortion industry as a whole is there to sell abortion. They don't care. They're not really about women's freedom. They're not really about women. They're really just about abortion. And it's becoming clearer with each and every passing year. Well, again, folks, I hope you appreciate this video. Give us a big thumbs up if you like what you hear. If you have any questions, just comment down below. I'm always happy to answer any questions that you may have. And again, try to subscribe to our channel. We're certainly increasing in our viewership, and I know this stuff is getting around more and more. I'm having various pro-life leaders talk about how they enjoy my videos and so forth. So, be sure to get out there, inform your friends, and always remember, as I always say, the more informed you are as a pro-lifer, the stronger your advocacy becomes. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and God bless.